What's happening? I just thought we'd talk about some lost media and some lost albums. These range from partially available to completely lost altogether. I think some of these you could get like bootlegs of, but most of these are pretty much lost. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into it. Original Uncontrolled Substance, Inspecta Dec. So what would have been his debut was initially set for a 1995 release on Loud Records, in which he was signed for a $650,000 deal, but after Loud was acquired by Sony, it was delayed and set to a late 1997 release. However, this experienced several additional delays due to a flood in RZA's basement studio, which destroyed over 100 beats, including all of the instrumentals made for the album. This meant that he ended up being one of the last on the Wu to put out a debut in 1999.
Every member in Wu get a chance to be the best, I think. You know what I mean? And at one point, he was the best. Like, his sword was the sharpest, and his lyrics was so powerful to picture there. He's Inspecta. If we would have had the production and the vibe of what his album would have been, then I'm sure he would have had a classic in the ranks of Cuban Link and Liquid Swords.
Wow.
Yeah, because lyrically he had it. A couple of the tracks was like the whole thing. Like at that point, we was into themes. You know what I mean? And the theme of how he was viewing things from above. You know what I mean? How he writes. Yeah, it would have been crazy. I mean, look, I bomb atomically.
Come on, man.
Socrates, philosophy.
And high prophecies, can't divine I be dropping these mockeries, lyrically perform armed robberies. Like, God, that was just stupid.
And the point about him, he says it in 4 lines. You basically got 10 pages of information.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a big loss.
So yeah, Dec's probably one of the unluckiest rappers of all time. If you didn't know he was supposed to feature on Got My Mind Made Up with Daz Dillinger, Corrupt, Method Man and Redman, and he probably had the best verse on the song as well. A lot of people speculated that Tupac took his verse off the song, but Daz said in an interview it was simply because Dec's verse was recorded on a different tape than the rest, and it got lost in some shit. Rage was also supposed to be on that track, but according to Daz, she didn't even get to record their verse. So yeah, I think I'd take Daz's word on this, considering he produced the song. Temporary Insanity, Eazy-E. So in the early 90s, Eazy-E said that he put out a double album that ended up being scrapped by 93 due to a beef with Dr. Dre. Most of what we know from this album stems from a 1993 Variety interview which states, the rapper's current disc EP, 5150, Home for the Sick, refers to a Los Angeles municipal code for a person behaving strangely. Is a predecessor to the January 29th release of a 2-album set, Temporary Insanity, which will contain 30 rap songs and include a guest appearance from Guns N' Roses. His record label, Ruthless Records, has entered into a deal with Priority Records to release both the EP and the double album. So yeah, as part of the promotion for Temporary Insanity, Eazy went on many talk shows and magazine photo shoots, wearing a hockey mask and a straitjacket, much akin to how The Weeknd wore a red suit in the promotion for his After Hours album. So yeah, what was left over would have ended up being on the posthumous album straight off the motherfucking streets of Compton. Magic, Madlib and Logic. So in April of 2022, Logic put out a song for free called Mars Only Part 3, and he tagged it with the name Magic, basically implying he'd be doing an album with Madlib. He subsequently trickled out a few more tunes, but then seemingly went quiet. We later found out in an interview that Madlib seemingly just let Bowie go wild with his beats, making an album with untraceable samples, some of the beats being that old that he just didn't have a clue which samples he'd even used for them. So unfortunately, Logic had to shelve the basically complete album until they could replace or remake some of the beats. Recently he teased the project with the inclusion of another Madlib song, Raiders of the Lost Ark, on his Inglourious Bastards mixtape.
Finished the whole Madlib album in a weekend, and he came to my house and he was like, damn, Lodge, this is crazy. And I was like, you like it? He's like, this shit is amazing. I'm so proud of what you did. And I was like, thanks, Otis. And he was like, yeah, man, I don't remember any of these samples. We're not going to be able to clear this shit. And I was like, what the fuck? So I went through out of all the beats that Egon gave me, and I made the perfect fucking album. And he's just like, I don't remember. I'm sorry. So it's all good. He's making new beats, and I'm just going to take those raps and put them over here and just recycle them like I've done my whole career. And it's going to be great.
XcX World by Charli XcX. XcX 3. or what would come to be known as XcX World, is an unreleased studio album written and recorded from 2015 to 2017 by Charli XcX, having a version of the album being finished in mid-2016. Then after being delayed multiple times, it was eventually shelved and leaked in August of 2017, ultimately causing its release to be cancelled.
You were working on an album called XcX World?
It didn't have a title.
Okay.
Everyone else just kind of like gave it a title. People made artwork. Yeah, it was never really a fully formed thing. So that's kind of all like the decisions of fans, actually. It wasn't really, I didn't feel like it was my decision to not put it out. The decision was kind of out of my hands because someone hacked me. So it just kind of felt like my work got taken from me and it was no longer mine. And that was really sad. I didn't even like get to process it much at the time, honestly, because it was just so shocking that it had actually happened.
The album's photo shoot by Bradley and Pablo also leaked in 2018. Charli has stated that she's aware of the album's popularity among her fans, that she loves the songs that were made for it, but the album will never likely be released. In 2014, following the release of Sucker, Charli was already planning her upcoming third album. She stated that she'd been inspired by Japanese music and wanted it to sound like another planet up in the clouds and have a childlike intensity.
We're still waiting for another album. When's that gonna hit?
Well, I'm dropping a new single tomorrow. It's called After the After Party, and my next album's going to be out in May. So yeah.
Inspired by all the Halloween parties you keep going?
Absolutely. It is actually inspired by partying. It's the party season. That's it. It's a party album, party record.
In January of 2015, she hinted that she'd begun making new music after being spotted with other singers and songwriters and music producers during a Camp Gimret in 2015 in countryside Sweden. About it, she said it was kind of just a hangout. We were all just there to make music and party for the week. In July of 2015, Charli shared an interview where she was working on the third album and described it as the most pop thing, the most electronic thing that she'd ever done. It was also known that Sophie, along with Blood Pop and Stargate, were confirmed to be involved with the album's production. Other pop producers like MNDR and The Invisible Men and MNEK were also confirmed to be a part of the album's production. In 2015, Charli released a song Vroom Vroom on Beats One radio show, then claiming it would be the first song from her third studio album. The song was considered a preview for what she'd been working on in the studio. Charli set up her own label, Vroom Vroom Records, and she would later release an extended play called Vroom Vroom under her own imprint label on the 26th of February 2016. Later that day, a song titled Trophy featured on the EP and received its first play on Zane Lowe's Beats One show. A music video for Vroom Vroom would be released on the 22nd of April 2016 via Apple Music, and all songs on the EP were produced by Sophie and meant to be included on the then up-and-coming third studio album. In 2016, it was announced that British producer AG and founder of PC Music had signed Charli as creative director, and the forthcoming month Charli said that in an interview with Fader that she was finished and would release in 2017. She also revealed song titles for the album, including Good Girls, Come to My Party, the former being described as playing around with gender expectations. When describing the project, Charli stated that the album would be split into two sides, half being straight up pop and half being love orientated. Obviously this is a lot like what the Brat ended up being like, so it's a bit like Brat before Brat. On November 2016, Charli performed at Exchange in Los Angeles along with Sophie, where they debuted numerous songs written and recorded with the intention of being included on the album. Roll Me would later be included on Number One Angel, and Bounce, Taxi and Angel were among the others teased by Charli while she was performing throughout 2016 to 2017. She'd also performed and the songs previously released for the Vroom Vroom EP. Not much has happened since then. A few have been released as singles like Taxi, and a version of Girls Night Out came out, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, I used that trend a while ago where fans were chanting to play Taxi. So yeah, all in all, this is probably one of the more sadder ones, considering the album's pretty much done, and especially considering how much of it was produced by Sophie. This basically would have just been like Brat, but like 10 years earlier almost. David Bowie, the Gouster. So yeah, this refers to the Sigma Sound studio recordings in August of 1974, which resulted in 10 songs being recorded. So Bowie's 1974 album Diamond Dogs showed glimpses of growing infatuation with R&B. After hearing Philly soul on the airwaves, Bowie decided to head straight for the source. By booking time at Philadelphia's Frame Sigma Sound in August, he assembled a dream team of studio musicians, including a young Luther Vandross. After several weeks of binging cocaine, it yielded a few songs for the album: It's Gotta Be Me, After Today, Who Can I Be Now, and Shining the Rubes. Young Americans is best known of these sessions, with a lyrical nod to Richard Nixon just 2 days before his registration in that August. Producer Tony Versotti assembled the tracks under the term Gouster, which defines a hip guy who walks down the street snapping his fingers, which is obviously a label that fits Bowie quite well. Quote, "I think it's the closest thing I've done on record to being very me," he said while previewing the album in Melody Maker. The record wasn't meant to come out until a Beatle intervened. About 2 weeks after I'd mixed the album, David phoned me to say John Lennon had recorded the song's Fame, and Versace recalls the pair also laid down Lennon's version for Across the Universe, that track that shifted a number of times to accommodate these cuts until the album was ultimately issued in 1975 as Young Americans. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It would have been interesting to see that different version of the album. So yeah, I think some demo versions of this have actually been released. So this is one of the albums that you can find. So this is one of the albums that you can listen to. To be honest, XcX World you can listen to, just not really on YouTube or anything. But yeah, they seem to be the two on here that have managed to survive out of the 5. But yeah, some pretty cool albums on here. But then it'd been nice to see some of them. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I'm gonna just end it there in a bit.